Okay, so now let's get into some operations in dealing with complex numbers. And complex numbers have one really basic rule. Just like when we add any two real numbers, we get a real number as a result. If we add any two complex numbers together, we should also get a complex number as a result. And right up here is the basic rule, and this applies to all the operations. If you add, subtract, multiply, or divide any two complex numbers, the result must also be a complex number, and we write it always in standard form. So let's talk about addition and subtraction. Addition and subtraction is probably the easiest of all of these, because if we want to add two complex numbers, we add or subtract like terms almost exactly in the same way that you would add or subtract like terms when it comes to polynomials. So let's take 3 plus 5i plus 4 minus 4i. To handle this kind of expression, we would drop the parentheses if we could. So we're going to take 3 plus 5i in this case, and we're going to add 4, leaky pen, and we're going to add 4 minus 4i. Now, it's not always necessary to write these in this order, but I'm going to go ahead and write it anyways. I'm going to have 3 plus 4 become my real part, because these are both real numbers. And I'm going to have 5i minus 4i as my completely imaginary part of the operation. Imaginary. That's not how you spell imaginary. There we go. I imagine it's this way. Imaginary. Okay, so we add the real parts to the real parts and the imaginary parts to the imaginary parts. So we're going to get 7 plus 1i, which we would just write as 7 plus i to be done with it. All right, let's talk about our next one. We've got negative 6 minus 5i minus 5 minus 9i. In this case, we do have to be careful with the way that we remove parentheses before we do any addition and subtraction, and remembering that there's a negative sign in front of the second parentheses, we have to distribute the negative. So, in this first case, negative 6 minus 5i just comes right out from its parentheses. There is no sign change in front of its parentheses, that is, to the left of it. But there is a sign change in front of the parentheses to the term on the right. So we're going to subtract 5, and we're going to subtract negative 9i, which is the same thing as saying plus 9i. And once again, when we're going to be adding our complex numbers together, we are going to add the real part to the real part. So we're going to take negative 6 and combine it with negative 5. So negative 6 minus 5 minus 5i, and add that to positive 9i. And when we do that, we're going to come up with negative 11 as our real part. And we're going to end up with plus negative 5 and 9 is positive 4i as our imaginary part. And this is our answer. Okay, more to come in the next video.